Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, episode 373, Kill Bill. My name's Matthew Turner alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick. How you doing, man?
I'm not bad, cheers. It's a fun college football Saturday. That's always where I'm in my element. And we've got Lions football again tomorrow. So, yeah, not doing too bad, thanks.
Apologies to all for having this preview show coming out a bit later and a bit closer to the game than normal. Work has kicked all of our asses this week, so this is the only time we could do. So hopefully you'll have some time to listen to it if you're not listening to it live. Before the game, we're going to rattle on through as we, well, don't often do, but we're going to try and do it here. I'm not going to do all of the pre stuff. You know, you guys have heard this show before. You guys know what we say there. Let's get on to the news straight away. And something quite sad to begin with, which is the tragic death of Marshawn Kneeland, the former Western Michigan edge rusher, second round pick who went to the Dallas Cowboys. Absolute tragedy. Really, really sad. The NFL have announced that they have requested that all games to hold a moment's silence before the games this weekend, and they're going to advertise the suicide and crisis lifeline, and you know it's tragic, and it happens often in sport with Diogo Jota in soccer this summer tragically passing away, and there have obviously been other NFL players. Dwayne Haskins comes to mind. It's terribly sad when it happens, especially to active players, and this one, an in-state player too.
Yeah, it just goes to show that, when it comes to your mental health and everything, it doesn't matter how much money you've got, your status, anything like that, it can get anybody and everybody. And it's another grim reminder, that, you know, you need to talk. And, it shouldn't have to come down to this happening. You would like to think that people would be able to feel like they can go out and talk about these issues, and it's tough, and you see it every day, unfortunately, at this moment in time. Just things get too much, people bottle it up, dudes especially. It's a thing, you bottle it up, you try not to bother people, and it can sometimes get at you, and it's tragic. So, again, I said it on the college pod the other day, if anybody is ever going through anything, speak, say something. There will always be people there to listen and help, because a lot of people understand who it is. A lot of people have been through it and want to help others. So, it's, I can't imagine how they feel, the friends, the family, all Cowboys fans as well. Thoughts go out to every single one of those, because a lot of those will know him, will have seen him play, watched him develop, and for him to be gone is tragic. So yeah, just always talk, always reach out. There's someone there who will listen. As our good friend Luke G says, it's you've the world needs you. May not need you now, but it will need you one day, and you've got to be here to do it. And always remember that. So always reach out. No way, someone will always listen. It's never too much.
Back onto football matters, and the trade deadline has passed without incident for the Detroit Lions. We did threaten that we would go live if anything happened, but I didn't have to break anything out on Tuesday evening. And I know that you were a particular proponent of the Lions going out and getting some reinforcements, especially with the injuries that have happened recently, but I get the feeling you would have been on that train regardless. Despite that, there have been some really, really minor moves that the Lions have made on the roster. We're going to go through them in a minute, but your thoughts on all of this? I know that you've made a very pragmatic comment on Twitter about them, deciding this is good enough, they better deliver now. But at the end of the day, even as someone who I think you would probably put in the bucket of, I'm a kind of long-termist in some ways, it was still kind of disappointing to see that we didn't do anything at all, because even as some people have pointed out, we did Z at this time last year, we didn't even get that.
No, I am disappointed. Obviously, it goes with the caveat that what Brad and Dan decide is best for this team. Of course, I'm going to listen, and they've done incredibly well with this team so far. But as I mentioned a lot, we're in a different phase right now. This is no longer a team that's 2 or 3 years away from competing, that's not good, that's not capable of going to a Super Bowl. Those sort of teams don't need to do anything at the deadline, and they can afford to cherry pick, and they can afford to be a bit more lackadaisical about it. You are a contender now, and you have to start behaving like a contender. And, we've seen there are flaws on this roster. There are problems with depth on this roster. And it's a long season. And I get you want to wait for your players to come back and you want to do it your way. But, we've mentioned you don't go 100% of the way just doing it your way. It's your ability to adapt when you get to a situation. And I'm not saying we should have done anything like the Source Gardner transfer or anything like that. You don't need to, but you need to be pragmatic in getting in reinforcements for your team and trying to provide depth. Just simply assuming, oh, everything's going to be all right with the offensive line because Miles Frazier and Giovanni Manu are coming is a development project out of Canada and a sixth round pick who's not played a snap. And you're like, yeah, that's going to be fine. Well, it's clearly probably not going to be fine. You've got a lot of beat up players on that offensive line. There is a long season to go, and people will just spit out saying they don't trade offensive linemen, they don't do this, they don't do that. Well, yada yada. I don't want to hear about what you can and can't do. There is always a way to go out there and get new people. Like some offensive linemen were traded, not great ones, but still depth. And we've got one of the best O line coaches in the league, so I would expect you could take a turnip and train it well, and I would expect it to do pretty good when it was there. But it's not just even the O line. You've got worry in your secondary. You've got potential at the defensive line or something like that. It's just I would like us to start acting like we were going to put the depth in to go there, because now you are saying this team is good enough. We trust this team. That is the message. They trust the players who are coming back. We trust the team as it is. Fine. But if you get bounced in the first round of the playoffs again, then that message starts getting harder to accept. And, are you going to be able to make that move when all is said and done? Don't know. So, and yes, lots of other teams didn't do anything either. One team wins the Super Bowl. 31 teams are going to be wrong this year. It's very hard to get it right, and there's no given path. Just because 20 other teams didn't do anything doesn't mean they're right. So I don't know. Sorry, go on.
No. I've got two thoughts on this, which is one, even though I think he's a bad player, I want to see where you think he would have slotted in with us, because I still think his mentality fits in with us. Trevor Penning moved for a 2027 seventh. He would be OT3 here, right? He'd be the swing tackle, and he'd probably be a dramatic upgrade on whoever the bloody hell that is going to be long term. And it's only a 9-game rental. But if that is an upgrade over, say, Dan Skipper, is that not worth doing? And the second, I'm not saying that Penning's a great NFL player, because I don't believe that he is as a reason why someone's willing to trade him for that little capital. But at the same time, so what? Just do it anyway. Like, give it a try. It's not going to cost you very much money in the scheme of things. My other thought is quite a disappointing one, which is, what if Brad has had a look at this team and says, I don't think even making some really big moves is moving anything this year, but it is going to make next year harder because of the amount of rookies we have are actually worse than we thought we were going to be. So I'm not going to make those moves because I don't believe we're in the Super Bowl window right now anymore because of the step back we've taken, and actually, let's see where we are next year. And that may be a very sobering thing to say out loud, but I don't think this team thinks they're ready for Super Bowl when it is as good as enough as it is. I think this might be a slight waving of the white flag and saying, you know what, we have to run with it right now, because if we make a big swing, it doesn't work, and then it affects us next year. What was it for if we don't believe we're ready?
Yeah, and I don't know. Obviously, they're always going to back, and they're going to say they are Super Bowl contenders and that. And, the next few weeks are going to be very telling. The two oppositions we've especially got after this one coming is going to show the barometer of where we're at. But I would agree. You don't, just because people have this allergic reaction to everything happens, if you want to do anything other than draft and develop, they go throwing away the future, no money, and they just throw out these things again and again and again like it's complete, utter balderdash. Like the company line after this, because everyone, like all the same old Lions fans and that went, oh well, look at what the Eagles do, and the Eagles are trading for the players, and the immediate company line from every beat writer going is, oh well, Harry Roseman's a bad GM. Harry Roseman has to make all these trades because he's a bad GM who makes bad decisions, and they're trying to put him down to make it look that that way is not the way to go. When you look at this pragmatically, as we said at the start of the year with the Eagles, 11 of those 12, sorry, 10 of those 11 defenders were rookie deals, rookies they drafted right after a Super Bowl winning season. Some of them are in year 3 and 4, but for the intents and purposes, it's the team they've drafted. It is young. They said, we're going to go with our draft picks. We're not going to pay these high caliber guys. We're not going to do this. We're going to do it with our own guys, which is what we want to do, right? Ideally, we just want it to be all our own draft picks and do that. It's not worked for them. And yet they're still winning games, and there's some good defenders emerging on there, but they realised they needed to adjust. So they went out and they brought a bit of experience onto that defense, just a little bit of what they didn't have before. They have altered their roster. They went with something, it didn't work, they changed. This narrative that Howie's just this terrible GM who needs to keep doing this. The fact is, he's a good GM because he works the comp market. He gives himself ammunition for the trade deadline, and he gives himself ammunition for the draft. We only give ourselves ammunition for the draft. We never have anything available to work the trade deadline because our threes are all gone. Then you're looking at fours, which aren't going to get you anything particularly big, or you're going to take a big swing and you're going to have to overpay with a 1 or a 2. Howie gave up a third for the edge from Miami. He's going to get that back in the comp race next year. So he's just traded a pick, which he's going to get back. Anywho, I don't like the company line where everyone's just immediately trying to dumb this down as people just demanding something right here, right now, and wanting the world. Because it's not. It's just wanting a bit of an adjustment. It's wanting to add some depth to this team because do I trust Josh Pascal to come back and be great on this team all the time? I bloody don't. Do I trust Davenport? No. All these guys have ever shown you is disappointment. And for year after year after year, with guys like Mosley, with guys like Aquara, we just kid ourselves into believing, oh, if we just stick with them for all eternity, they will get good.
We're talking about Julian Aquara, right? Let's just stipulate.
Yeah.
We're talking about Julian, right? Not Romeo.
Romeo's injury was so serious that that affected. It's like Kaminsky. Like, he was great, and then the injury just affected him to the point he couldn't do.
Just wanted to say, I've got my Aquara jersey, and I'm not having it.
my overall point is that we've put a lot of faith into people who don't deserve it on this team again and again and again. There is nothing wrong with going out there and bringing in reinforcements from the outside. This mantra of it's got to work, it's the right price, etc. It will bite you. Because if he has just said this roster maybe ain't good enough, let's just go through this season. This is what the long window does to you. Oh, it doesn't matter. The long window just means we can throw this away because we can come back next year with our £1 billion of talent at thing and go again. And it's,
at some point you need to pull the trigger.
At some point you need to pull the trigger. And at some point we are going to have to accept that we can't keep paying all our young core. You're gonna have to let them go, like teams like the Eagles do. Work the comp picks, work trades, reinvest them in the draft, and keep going again. We just can't keep paying everyone all the time because this is what it's doing to us. We've got no capital to work with when it comes to the deadline to adjust. So, of course, I'm going to back this team to the very end. And I trust them with this decision. But all I'm saying is, if they get bounced in the first round again, we are going to revisit this deadline and we're going to look at it in a whole different fashion with hindsight. That's all I'm saying here. At some point, you've got to start acting like a contender and stop just pretending that you're not.
I will say one thing for Howie. He's been in post so long and he's had so many draft classes which have been so successful that he's managed to let people go to get comp picks to then fire at his trades because he manages to make all these trades and he still has significant draft capital behind him. So for him, it is a bit more of a, well, I've got to do something with it. So I would only say that I think that Brad has not quite yet been long enough in post to be quite in the same situation
No,
as Howie.
no,
But the point is well taken in terms of just the ability of trying to do it in both the trade
yeah.
deadline and in free agency or pre-draft process. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're going to have to start acting like that. This is where you expect the transition to come. You've got to start acting like this now. We
Mm-hmm.
can't pay every single star out of the draft. It is just not feasible because we're going to end up with a disjointed roster.
Yeah.
We need picks. Like all our third rounders from last year and this year are wound up in Tesla right now, and Tesla is doing jack shit. So, we've got to put ourselves in a position where we can afford to give some of these picks away for guys like him and develop him while still having picks to work with. It would have been nice to have those thirds available at this deadline to help with the roster now because Tesla's not helping it at all
Mm.
right now.
Yeah.
So, we've got to adapt the strategy to where we are at as a team. We cannot just keep affording top of the league players. It's just not a thing now. You're going to have to be ready to say goodbye to them. So,
Yeah. All right, moving on from that, here are the moves that we've made since we were last live. Guard Christian Mahogany has been put on injured reserve. He is expected to come back at some imaginary point in the future before the Super Bowl. That is what Dan Campbell's indicated. He said he will be back at some point this season, but did not specify what point that was. And as long as it's before the Super Bowl, I guess he's technically right. Released from the practice squad offensive lineman Justin Heron, signed to the 53 from the practice squad linebacker Ty Summers, signed to the practice squad all offensive linemen Jack Connolly, Chris Hubbard, and the return of Natane Muti. From our practice squad, a poach from to Miami goes the former Army man Andre Carter II. The 21-day practice window has been opened for defensive end Josh Pascal, and then released with an injury assessment to end Kenny Yeboah. Couple of other points here. Jack Campbell has not been fined by the NFL for his roughing the passer penalty last week. There's a good piece on Pride of Detroit on this, but everyone gets fined for roughing the passer. There are no exceptions. So, the NFL, by not fining him, has implied that they know the referees have made a mistake with that decision because they have not fined him. So, good to see that in some ways, although they could abundantly have gotten that right on the field. Without wanting to get too political, President Donald J. Trump is going to be attending the game, which is going to add some extra flavour to it. He has called on the Washington leadership to name their new stadium after him, which is an added wrinkle. And then finally, and something I really want to get Ant's thoughts on, but obviously as everything that I've just mentioned to comment on, although frankly I think the roster stuff is pretty minor, is the recent Dan Campbell and John Morton press conferences. Because I don't know about you, Ant, but it was striking to me how on a different page they seem. And the only way I can put this is the offense well schemed or isn't it? Is the communication good or isn't it? Because they are not on the same page as to what is wrong with this team. And it has a lot of people freaking out. And a lot of people have seen what John Morton has done in a press conference and have decided to start calling for his head. Even compared to what's happened on the field, even to me, as someone who's kind of been like, I don't even believe in this project, but give it time, let it play out. It was striking how much Campbell was like, we're going to fix it. And then Morton was basically like, yeah, the protections just sucked. Like, throwing the team under the bus. Like, it's a very different style of leadership, clearly. And maybe they are on the same page, but it was a bit rough to watch.
he sounds like Matt Patricia,
He does.
which is concerning. The thing is, we know this team can operate. We know this team can execute. It execute one of the most. Ben's offense was complex. People say it's simple. It's simple, but it is complex, and there are a lot of moving parts to it. You've got to be very well drilled to pull it off. We very rarely talked about the lack of technique amongst the offense last year. It executed absolutely perfectly. This year, it's not. And I know you've got the entire interior of the offensive line, but like, how many times have we came up against battered teams? Like, remember, I think it was either last year or the year before last when the Seahawks beat us in like that 45-43 game or whatever it was.
Like years ago, I was
Do you
on
remember
holiday.
that?
I watched it on
Yeah.
holiday. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was in overtime. They beat us.
Yeah, their offensive line was trashed for that game. They got Abe Lucas, who was terrible. Like the tackles were all hurt. They got a very bad offensive line, which had been through the first few weeks of the season, had been terrible. They tore us to shreds on offense because they built a system that worked to alleviate the weakness of the offensive line. You can work around offensive line weakness. You can do that. We didn't. And just saying the offensive line sucks and they're not executing properly. It's your goddamn job. He makes it sound like he creates the plays. That's his job. The execution of the plays is not his job. So he says, I'm doing my job. Plays are called perfectly. It's them not doing the job. You're the offensive coordinator. Play design, play execution. It's all your responsibility and that of you and your coaches. But at the end of the day, it's on you. If they're not executing properly, they're not blocking properly, that's because of you. And whatever you're doing, they didn't look ready. They didn't look like they could handle a goddamn stunt the other day. Like, college players know what a stunt. Hell, you go back to Pee Wee football, they'll know what a stunt is. And these guys look like they're just completely unmatched. And it's not like they're not good. Ratledge has been awesome this season. Hey, Ratledge has been great. He's not a problem on this team. Mahogany, for the most part, has been pretty decent this year. You know, Glasgow's been so-so. But at the end of the day, it's not like any of them are playing pure garbage. We had, what, 3 games earlier in the season where we didn't give up a sack? Like, Jared was just in the pocket all day long and they were performing well. So it's not the players that are bad, it's the execution that's bad. And it's his offense, which is so negative in the way that it's played. Again, in the Minnesota game, you're throwing screens all the time. Minnesota eats that up. You're throwing like 1 or 2 yards downfield before the sticks where they love to rally against you. Brian Flores has a massive neon sign up which says, My defense does this. And John Morton went, Huh, well, that's at odds with how I play football. Screw it, I'm going to play football my way, even though I'm going to put it into their hands and do the one thing that they want me to do. That stubbornness on his part, his play calling was crap. Absolute rubbish. He didn't use JMO. He didn't use Tesla. He didn't aim downfield at all until the last part of the game. They couldn't deal with Jameson Williams going deep downfield. And yet he acts like Jameson Williams doesn't exist, like throwing the ball downfield is a crime to the way he wants to play football. You know, the way he's talking, he's deflecting blame. And that's not what she does. Does Dan Campbell do that? Does Dan Campbell go, I called a perfect game plan. All these players were rubbish and didn't do it. Who's the first person he blames? Himself. He is accountable. Kelvin Shepherd is accountable. He says if he has a bad game. Kelvin Shepherd adjusts in game. We've seen that in his short DC career so far. Pretty much every single game, a team's gotten on top of him at some point and he's adapted and adjusted in game. John Morton hasn't. There's a common denominator here.
And you got to believe that Dan Campbell's going to see exactly what's going on because he doesn't miss a beat and he's going to be telling him that. I do think that Morton's job is on the line in season. I think very much so in the next couple of games, this could be it for him.
And it's very telling that the players are telling a different story.
Yeah.
We never had this under Ben. We never had this under any of the other coaches. Hell, I think you'd have to probably go back to Anthony Lynn till you found some discourse under a coordinator which was different to the thing being going out, and he soon lost his job.
But even Lynn did not publicly trash his players, and he was never fired. He was quietly demoted and then left at the end of the season.
Yeah,
That is not going to be this way.
And he had an inferior offense to work with.
Yeah, he did.
Morton's got a Ferrari in comparison, and I'm sorry, but it's up to you. If there's problems with the offensive line, you've got to fix it. It's not acceptable that you're just going to sit there and blame them, and you're going to put yourself in stupid situations to do so. Yeah. The Eagles are going to see that. The Packers have done it once to us this year already. It's on you, Sunshine, to adapt. This is a Super Bowl caliber team. It is not some scrub team that's wheeling out a bunch of nobodies and journeymen. There's hundreds of millions of dollars in this offense, and you have got to get it working, Sunshine, because our season's in trouble now, potentially, with the next 3 games we've got coming up, and his side of the ball is going to be pivotal in making sure it doesn't go off the rails, because I've got no concerns about Kelvin and what he does.
We've just had a question from Chris Brown 1959 on YouTube, which asks, are there any assistant coaches on the offensive side of the ball who could step in as offensive coordinator? I do have several suggestions for this. I think that Scotty Montgomery has at least interviewed for those roles. And he is obviously the assistant head coach and wide receivers coach. I think he could transition into that fine. I think Mark Brunell could play that role. Quarterbacks coach, obviously a former quarterback in this league. He knows what it takes to build a scheme. He knows what it takes to run a scheme. Hank Fraley has obviously interviewed for that role. Now, I don't want to lose Hank to that role, but he's interviewed for them, so he's got to be in contention here. And then otherwise, David Shaw would potentially be in contention here, I think. He's obviously been a head coach in the college ranks before. Bit of a different animal, but he can do it. There are definitely candidates to take over as offensive coordinator if Morton was to get the boot. I'm not sold on particularly any one of them, really. It's suboptimal. There's a reason why none of them did get hired, of course. But, you know, it would be Dan Campbell calling the plays, I'm pretty sure.
See, I don't think there's anyone on this staff who could do it. I think with the way we play, yes, it might be very simple, but it's very complex. You've got to have a wrinkle to it. You've got to have that innovative mind that can utilize all these guys on your offense and somehow make it work. I'm not sure, like Hank's an O-line coach. He's said many, many times that's what he wants to be. If he's ever an offensive coordinator, it's with an offensive-minded head coach who's going to call his plays for him, and he's going to, you know, design the run game execution and bits like that. David Shaw is old school when it comes to his offensive mind. He was at Stanford. It wasn't particularly balanced a lot of the time. He likes to run the ball first. He's not as big in as, you know, it's a pro-style offense he ran there, but, you know, you weren't getting high-level receivers and quarterbacks coming out of there, really. Running backs, he likes to run the ball well. Tyler Roll, maybe. He's the young, innovative guy who's in there, who's been on a couple of different teams. He's been on winning teams. I don't know what his degree to go into offensive coordinator would be like, but I think out of all of them, it would be Roll. Outside of that, no. You know, Tanner would have been the best to keep here and do it, but I do want someone in Ben's mold again. You've got to have someone who adapts with the NFL. I don't want an older head. They don't adapt. They don't adapt the way they play football, and the NFL always catches up with you. So we need someone who can keep up with the times and trailblaze.
All right, let's get on to the game. If I can get the right thing up, that would be great. There we go. Commanders are upcoming for us. We are, of course, going to Washington, D.C. for this one, to the FedEx Field, which actually isn't in Washington, D.C. It's just outside in Landover. But off we go, and the Commanders are 3-6, expected wins of 3.7, so slightly under expectation, but still not a good team, despite having their starting quarterback for some, if not most, of this season. But they have been very banged up with injury, and we'll get to that in just a second. Their games so far, they won versus the Giants, lost against Green Bay, and then won versus Las Vegas to start 2-1. Then a loss at Atlanta, and then a win at the Chargers made them 3-2. And then they are on a 4-game slide with losses versus Chicago, at Dallas, at Kansas City, and versus Seattle. 3-4 reasonable teams there, and then wins against the Giants, the Raiders, and the Chargers. Chargers obviously have had their own injuries, although they have got a fairly good few wins in there. So they've beaten some cakewalk of some teams. You know, that Giants team is still not good. The Raiders may be the worst team in the league. So their wins have not exactly been against some really strong teams. And looking at this one, Detroit in the betting are big favourites at 9-2 on, and that's minus 450 away from home. Washington is 7-2, that's plus 350. Detroit are 8-point favourites on the spread. The over-under is 49 points. Injury report, the Lions have out of this game guard Miles Frazier, running back Jacob Sailors, defensive lineman O'Connor, defensive end Josh Pascal, obviously he hasn't been activated yet, linebacker Malcolm Rodriguez, again not activated yet from injured reserve, and safety Kirby Joseph. Questionable for this game, Taylor Decker, Dan Skipper, running back Craig Reynolds, linebacker Grant Stewart, and safety Daniel Thomas. For Washington out of this game, quarterback Jayden Daniels, who won't need to go on IR. They're going to reevaluate after their bye, which I think comes after this game. Wide receiver Terry McLaurin also does not play today. Tomorrow even, sorry. Questionable for this game, nose tackle Eddie Goldman, safety Quan Martin, and safety Terrell Owens. Detroit have elevated the offensive lineman Michael Neese for this game. So obviously Lions in need of some guard help potentially. He's going to fill that. Also can fill in at centre as well. For Washington, they have a lot of players on injured reserve. That includes running back Austin Eckler, wide receiver Luke McCaffrey and Noah Brown, tight end Tyree Jackson, tackle Lucas Nyang, defensive end Drake Jackson, Devontae John Baptiste, Dorrance Armstrong and Dietrich Wise Jr., cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, and former Lions safety Will Harris. So that is a large number of names who have been quite impactful on this team. Eckler was probably running back one. McCaffrey has been their starting kick returner and has filled in on offense. Noah Brown has done some bits. Drake Jackson would have probably done something in there. Dorrance Armstrong's a starting edge. Dietrich Wise was a starting edge. Lattimore, obviously, they traded for recently, was their best cornerback, even though he's not been playing particularly well. Will Harris has been, and I say this with a very large pinch of salt, one of their best defenders this season, which is not exactly a glowing reference for this team, but all of those people on injured reserve. And so what that means, looking at this team, is that it's pretty banged up, I'm not going to lie. Jayden Daniels not starting in his place. It's going to be Marcus Mariota, backed up by former Lion Josh Johnson. Pretty sure he's been at us for a while, at some point.
He's played at every NFL team.
He has. Leading running back now is Bill Krosky Merritt, who's actually been maybe the star of the season for Washington so far, backed up by Chris Rodriguez Jr. and Jeremy McNichols. Wide receivers are going to be Deebo Samuels, Chris Moore, and Jaden Lane, backed up by Treylon Burks. Tight ends, Zach Ertz, former Lion, of course, backed up by John Bates and Ben Sinnott. And then the offensive line, the much maligned offensive line, Laramie Tunsil at left tackle, he's still very, very good. Chris Poole, who's actually been okay. Tyler Biadasz at centre. Sam Cosmi, returning from his injury last season at guards, maybe their best offensive lineman outside of Tunsil. And right tackle and first round pick this season, Josh Connolly Jr., who has really, really struggled. They're going to be backed up by Trent Scott, Brandon Coleman, Nick Algretti, Andrew Wiley, and George Fant. On the defense, looking at their nickel set, 4 down linemen of Jacob Martin, Darren Payne, Javon Kinlaw, and Jalen Holmes, backed up by Eddie Goldman, Jazane Newton, Preston Smith, and Sheldon Day. Linebackers, Jordan McGee, Bobby Wagner, and Frankie Louvu, backed up by Nick Ballore, Ali Caho, and Von Miller is there, as well as Kane and Medrano. Nickelbacks, Mikey Samrastril, backed up by Noah Igbogot. I can never say the bloody name. Noah Igbenogany. And then outside corners, Trey Amos and Jonathan Jones, backed up by Antonio Hamilton Sr. And the safeties, Jeremy Reeves and Quan Martin, backed up by Tyler Owens, Darnell Savage, and Percy Butler. The punter is Tress Way, one of the best in the league. Actually, I've been very, very impressed by him. Kickers, Matt Gay. Long snapper is Tyler Ott. I'll go into some more stats in a bit, but I've talked for a while. And this is a Commanders team that's had the arse fall out of it this year. Obviously, rode on a high last year after, and let's not forget, having absolutely no expectations whatsoever last year, completely surpassed them. And now this year, they've come in with all of those expectations, and they are maybe the team we thought they were at the start of last season.
I mean, it's tough to know. Jayden Daniels been knocked up so much, I think, has hurt. Not having him consistently healthy for the year has been a detriment to them. And as you said, that injury list is long. You know, there are a lot of key players off on there. You know, your running back room, you've had to reset. Your quarterback room, you've had to reset. You've had to reset on your offensive line. You've had to reset on the defense. Like, you can't lose so many of these guys and still be as good as you were last year. But you're right. We said, you know, the league will adapt to you. Last year, the league didn't know about them, like it didn't know about us the year before, like just how good we were and how good our offense was. The league caught up to us last year, even though we went 15-2, but the Commanders found a way to do it. The league always catches you up, and they've learned how to deal with them this year. And like you said, expectations is a funny thing. When you've no expectations, you play freer and you play better. With expectations, it just makes you tighten up a little bit. It brings the pressure on. You feel it a little bit more. You start making those little mistakes, and before you know it, you're in a hole constantly and you're struggling. And that's just what it is for Washington. It's like their sophomore year as a quarterback. They've had a really good freshman year at quarterback and they look really good. And then the sophomore year, they're having to deal with people who know what they're about now. And for Washington, it's can they adapt? Can they survive going forward? And you know what? They're making a fist of it, even with Mariota on the center. They're a dangerous team. And, you know, it's not just them who are under pressure for this game. And this is a theme I'll talk about later, but I'm more worried about what this game means for us than what it means for them. But I've seen what Washington can do when they're on form. I've seen how hard they can play when their back's up against a wall. And, you know, we just came up against a team with its back against the wall in Minnesota, who also didn't really have impressive victories, didn't really look that good. And, you know, they, you know, coiled themselves and bit us. It could happen again. So, yeah, Washington are not the team they were last year at the moment. The quarterback, the star quarterback, is not in this game, which is great, but they still possess means to hurt us. And a big part of that means of hurting us is the pressure that's going to be on our team as well. So, you know, it's as much a psychological issue for us as is a talent issue for them. So, you know, I think it just makes them even more dangerous where they're at the moment.
Totally agreed. It's another team we must not overlook, and frankly, we did to the Vikings. So
We did. And you know, right, so for the Lions, what does this game mean for the Lions season? So we're what, 5-3 right now. You know, fine. 5-3. And again, I'm on record as saying regular season doesn't matter. Great. It doesn't. But it's not just this game, it's the run that comes after. You've got the Packers and the Eagles next. And they're two teams who can kick your ass even when you play well. This game now it's a pressure game for us. If for some reason you lose this game against a beat up Washington team because there's pressure on this team now and the cracks are starting to show. This is why the arguing's starting. This is why the blame shifting's starting because the real pressure's on now because you are a Super Bowl contender and you are being held to you have been held to the quality of a Super Bowl contender and you're falling short right now. And it's starting to get at you. If you lose to Washington, or God forbid tie, you are then 5-4. and you've got the Packers and the Eagles to come, and you are very realistically looking at a possibility where you could be in a situation where you're 5-6. You're suddenly a sub 500 team. You've got a few games lost in a row, and then you're under a whole world of pressure because you're struggling for the playoffs then because Chicago are holding right now. The Packers are holding right now. You've just given the Vikings a route back into the conference. We could have done them last week. If we'd have won last week, Vikings are a non-factor in the NFC North going forward, and you're in a much better position. This is critical for us. There is no if, ands, or buts. You've got to win this game. You have to win this game. And nearly 3 years of not losing consecutive games says that they will, but also over these last 3 years, you've not been in a position where you're under this much pressure early in the year either. It's a new scenario for us. So, this game is huge for us. And as I say, it's about as much as the pressure that will be on this team. Because imagine if they start with a few bad drives, offense looks shit again. Fans are going to be on them like that. And you could hear it in the last game, the fans are starting to get on them and they're not going to accept it again. Maybe playing away from home's a blessing, but yeah, this game is huge for us. Quite simply put.
Completely agree. Let's talk stats. PFF has this as a 17th overall team, 16th on offense, 21st on defense, 3rd on special teams. DVOA agrees with the overall, having them 16th. EPO has it 23rd overall, 17th on offense, 27th on defense. So all agree, roughly speaking, about a middle-of-the-pack team without a middle-of-the-pack record, with the offense better than the defense so far. And the special teams have been pretty good overall. Mariota is going to be the quarterback, so looking at his stats on the season, he's had 18 rushes for 122 yards. That's 6.8 yards per carry and a touchdown. There's something you've got to account for with Mariota. It's how he wins games. God knows the Lions are not exactly great against rushing quarterbacks still. Can we bottle him up? Can Derek Barnes be utilised in that role that we have seen him use at some points this season to good effect? Through the air, 56 of 88, 63.6%, 639 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 picks, 81.6 passer rating, 59.2 QBR, PFF grade of 81.5, which is the highest on the Washington Commanders offense. Running back leader is Jackery Crosskey Merritt, otherwise known as Bill. 94 carries, 440 yards, 4.7 yards per carry, and 4 touchdowns. He has a league high 59.6% running success rate. Just thought that was worth mentioning. For all the fact that he gets 4.7 yards a carry, he very, very often, he's the best at getting what is deemed a successful play. He's also 8 of 12 for 63 through the air, PFF grade of 72.7. Wide receiver Deebo Samuel, he is 10 for 49 and a touchdown on the ground, and 42 of 55 for 367. That's 8.7 yards per catch and 3 touchdowns, PFF grade of 67.9. Tight end leader is Zach Ertz, 31 of 44 for 291, 9.4 yards per catch and 4 touchdowns, PFF grade of only 56. Other good grades in there, Laramie Tunsil 77. Other bad grades, backup guards Wiley at 50 and Algretti at 49, and starting tackle Josh Connolly at 50. This team is 14th on 3rd down, 27th on 4th down, and in the red zone is 2nd in the NFL on offense. They have converted 17 of their 22 trips to the red zone into touchdowns. So you say what you want about this offense, it can hurt you, especially in the red area, so keep them out of it. On defense, defensive tackle leader Daron Payne, 5 passes defended and a forced fumble, a sack, 30 tackles, 5 TFLs, 5 quarterback hits, a safety, and a PFF grade of 75.6. Leading edge player is Jacob Martin with 3.5 sacks, 22 tackles, 2 TFLs, 9 quarterback hits, and a PFF grade of 65. They've also got the specialist pass rusher Von Miller as an outside linebacker, 4 sacks, 11 tackles, 2 TFLs, 9 quarterback hits, and a PFF grade of 63. Leading inside linebacker is Bobby Wagner. He may have lost a step, but he's still bloody good. 1 interception, and I have no idea what that is. It's probably a pass defense. 2 sacks, 90 tackles, 6 TFLs, 4 quarterback hits, and a PFF grade of 77. Leading corner is the nickel Mikey Shamrastrill, formerly of Michigan. 3 interceptions, 7 passes defended, 41 tackles, PFF grade of 51. He's had a bit of a rough year, although a very good pick last week. And then safety Quan Martin. 2 passes defended, a forced fumble, 58 tackles, a TFL, 2 quarterback hits, and a PFF grade of 52. Everyone's a bit middle of the pack for this team. There's no good graded defenders other than those listed. There's no bad grades other than those listed. It's a really weird team where it's just a bit meh, and no one's really stood out from the crowd. They're 21st on third down, 15th on fourth down, and 26th in the red zone, giving up a touchdown 20 times on the 30 trips allowed. And you spoke about this team being able to hurt you. We've seen quarterbacks like Mariota especially hurt us before, but Krosky Merritt has shown that, despite his low draft stock, he very much can be a successful running back at this level. And then Debo can always hurt you. Ertz has got good hands. The offensive line is a bit up and down, but, Tunsil's still one of the best left tackles in the league. They're going to scheme it up to find a way, much like you said with other teams. Washington will do something to mitigate the problems that they have.
Oh, absolutely they will. And they've got the triumvirate of things that we hate. A pretty solid, stable pocket passer who can dish it out round the field and, with relative accuracy. They've got a tight end who is quite frankly dangerous as a receiver. They might not grade him. I don't know what his blocking is, but Zach Ertz will tear you to shreds in the passing game. We struggle against tight ends a lot, and they've got a running back who can get outside the tackles, who can get away from our defensive tackle. On a personal note, I love seeing Krosky Merritt do well. Krosky Merritt I said he was a day 2 pick, easy. Only reason he wasn't is because he had the eligibility issues at Arizona. He's got the best feet of any running back you'll see, and there's a reason why that success rate is so high. It's his feet. The change of direction is just phenomenal. If you don't tackle right, you'll miss him. His feet are second to none. Probably had the best feet of any running back in the draft just gone, and they got him this late in the draft. It's stupid. They got ridiculously good value simply because of eligibility, and that's all it was with him. But he's rapid. You've got to contain him, and he will get outside the tackles because we like to funnel it into our defensive tackles generally. It's not a bell cow back who can go through that. Hang on. Yep. Tamu score again. Wonderful. Yeah. Merritt can hurt you. Ertz can hurt you. Mariota, you've got to get at him. You've got to make him uncomfortable early. He's got picks in him. But, this is a savvy veteran offense. These guys who've been in the league a long time. Debo, you've got a game-changing wide receiver there. You've got experience on the offensive line. You know me, I don't really give a fuck about PFF grades. I don't care. It's just a metric. It doesn't really say anything. It doesn't. Just because they've got mid grades doesn't mean they're going to be mid against us. They could all have the best games of their life because on their day, they're still a very dangerous offense. So, I'm concerned. I've seen what they did last year to us. They game planned us perfectly. And they didn't allow us to settle into that. And defensively, there's a lot of stars still on there. And the trouble is, they've got a lot of stars at the defensive tackle position, which is coming up against our interior, which is banged up. I mean, when you've got Jayden Newton as your backup defensive tackle, that's stupid because Jayden Newton is an absolute menace. And he'll go after these young guys we've got. He'll go after a patchwork interior. Deron Payne's in there as well. He's been in the league for a long time. Javon Kinlaw has been as well. Like, they match up in the wrong places. Their edges are the ones that are not quite as good, but our tackles are very good. But they've got all the pressure coming through the interior. Frankie Louvu will be a pain in the arse. Should be suspended, but he's not. It's again, yeah, it's a mere team. The results have said anything, but it's still, again, you're halfway in the season about right now. There's still a long way to go yet. Not everything's set onto how good or bad this team can be. And they're playing some decent football when they want to. So, yeah, I'm worried. I do genuinely am because of the pressure on this team and what will happen if they exert some pressure on us if they get in front. have us playing from behind, have us playing panic. They're allowed to release that pass rush and they're blitzing a little bit more. Again, do I think we can beat them? Absolutely. But at the same point, you have to respect them. This is a team that is not, it can beat you on the day.
I'm going to come on to their loss against Seattle now, just because it all went to pieces, but not in a way where I really think that it reflected badly on them. And I don't really know why I feel that way, but partly it's maybe just overcorrecting for not wanting to overlook a team. But part of me thinks everything just went to pot in a really sort of unlucky way. So on offense, I mean, they got themselves loads of flags, and that doesn't really hurt. There were lots of chop blocks in there and stuff like that, where they're getting 50-yard penalties on offense, which really doesn't help. Some holding penalties too. The offensive line kind of struggled against Seattle's defense, but we know Seattle's defense is really, really strong, so I'm not holding that against them massively. Daniels did kind of do everything himself, but I do wonder how much of that was knocking off the rust and just trusting his legs a little bit more than his arm. They did have a face mask as well, which kind of really, really hurt them too. Otherwise, the scheme was relatively nice. I think Chris Rodriguez had a really nice drive when they were 28-0 down. He effectively drove him down the field by themselves with all of the starters still in. Daniel's injury was catastrophic. You have to question the leadership, I think, a little bit, because they were down 31 points with 7 minutes to go. Why have you got Daniels in the game, especially when he's been banged up at the start of the season? Just hoik him out, be smart, think about the rest of the season. So I question the head coach on that decision. But otherwise, offensively, they did quite a bit that I was quite impressed with in terms of getting the ball out to Debo, out to Ertz, cross-key merit was good. It just wasn't enough against the Seattle team, which was just stronger than them on the day. On defense, very aggressive coming downhill, often brought more bodies. They're not bringing 4 that often against this team. They're bringing 5, 6, 7. Remains to be seen, I think, whether that was scheme specific for Darnold or not. The coverage kind of struggled generally. The run defense really struggled against this Seattle team. You had Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet having their way with them. And what that did is it meant that Washington had to bring even more bodies in up front to try and stop them, which really opened up things over the top. You had Sam Rastrill getting burned by Torrey Horton on his corner route for the second touchdown. Horton, by the way, holy shit, that was good. Which I know Ryan McCluskey is probably going to be very, very happy about, because I think he was a particularly big Torrey Horton fan, but you might correct me if I'm wrong. Was it you, actually, or was it him that was a big Torrey Horton fan?
It was me.
It was you? Oh, there we go. He had himself a day last week. There was a kick return fumble by Washington, which really put them in the hole, because it was 7-0, score a touchdown, fumble, and then the very next play was a touchdown. So in the blink of 10 seconds, they conceded 14 points. That was a seam pass to Arroyo. Coverage just couldn't handle it. Otherwise, pass rush was getting to Darnold. He was having to kind of maneuver in the pocket to buy himself a second here or there to be able to get plays off. As I say, overcommitted to the run because they couldn't stop it, which meant that Darnold actually started this game 17 for 17. And that's what it took to really blow this team away, was Darnold just having a kind of goated start to the game. He'd never had a run of more than 14 in his career, and he managed to do 17. And these were no gimme passes for a lot of them. He's throwing down the field, especially to JSN and people like that. Jonathan Jones really struggled to cover JSN in particular. Otherwise, Sam Rastrill had a really good pick. So Mariota had an interception where... Not Mariota. Ugh. God. Darnold was throwing a delayed slant and just threw it behind his receiver. But Sam was trying to kind of launch himself into it to get the pick, and that was very impressive. And then just otherwise, special teams... Punting was good all day, and they did a fair amount of it, and their punt coverage was also very good. So I wouldn't expect to be seeing much from our punt return team. Otherwise, I thought kickoffs were good. That is what that is. I mean, it was 38-14 in the end, this game, but it was 38-7 going into the fourth quarter, and Seattle controlled most of it. disappointing game for Washington potentially, but Seattle were just firing on all cylinders in this game. There would have been no beating them. I think they would have beaten most teams on that sort of form. It's an interesting team because the scheme in terms of how much pressure they bring up front with that defense is not unlike, for me, at least in this game, what the Vikings kind of did to us. Not precisely in the same way, and not maybe with the bells and whistles, but Dan Quinn knows defense. So, they're going to bring it.
Yeah, the defense is what, top 10 in sacks, top 10 in fumbles. Like, it can get at you. It can make the big splash plays, and you've got guys everywhere. That it's not just one person they're relying on. They've got three guys who've got 5+ sacks this year. You've got a whole load coming from your linebackers, your DTs. They can hit you here, there, and anywhere. Trouble was in the Seahawks game, they're down 21-zip in no time at all. You said it there. Very few teams are built to work from 21 points down when they're on the road. It's just very tough, especially when you don't have a legitimate prime dual threat. When you've got the prime dual threat quarterback, you've got a chance. But when you're working with a veteran, 35-odd-year-old pocket passer, you're 21 points down on the road. Seattle can just tee off on you at any given opportunity. That's all they were doing. It's hard to run the ball when you're three scores down. Because they can just load up. They can be super aggressive against you. I don't know if that game tells you anything more than get up on a team 3 scores early and you'll drop a hammer on them. I feel like that's a game-winning recipe for most teams. Like, you get up 3-0, you get up 3 scores on someone in no time at all, then odds are you're going to win the game. So it's tough. And like I say, that Seattle team is good. They've got the best receiver in the NFL right now. He's at the top of his game. Darnold's playing well. It's they did show you how to beat them. You've just got to get in Washington's face, and you've got to make that defense crack. That's the tough part of it, making that defense crack, working through the negative plays. And one thing that the Seahawks didn't do very often, they didn't have a negative play on first down. You keep those chains moving. How many negative plays on first down do we have? Against Minnesota. You just put yourself behind the chains consistently. Seahawks didn't do that, which took
And
away.
I don't know what you've just changed, but the audio's just gone bad.
Oh, sorry, I've just knocked my mic.
There you go.
Can
That's
you hear
better.
me better now?
Yeah, that's better.
Sorry. Yeah, they didn't play into what Washington's strength is. It's to get people in bad situations and then just tee that pass rush off on them and have a load of guys who are ready to clean up in the backfield, with the interceptions and everything. This team can make splash plays. So it's kind of the same with Minnesota, really. You've got to stay out of bad situations with them. If you can do that, if you can put them under pressure, run the ball down their throat, 'cause it's not their speciality, that's how you do it. But we said the same against Washington. Minnesota's defense. It's not the best at defending the run, but they just gave that many negative plays and sold out so much against it. It stopped us from doing what we did best. Like you said, Dan Quinn is a defensive guy. It's on their home field. Their season is on the line. They need to win this game. They can't really afford to lose it. Otherwise, they're looking towards the draft next year. They're not really going to compete in that conference. So, it's a bad team, but it's a team with a lot of talent on it, which can show up on its day, and it's in a situation where it simply has to play well. And again, backs to the wall in the NFL. A lot of times, players respond to that, and it's going to be on to us to keep them held down and stop them scrapping against us.
Yeah, I completely agree. So with that all told, how do you see the game going, and what's your score prediction?
See, this is tough. Again, everybody who knows me knows I'm very realistic with this team. And I like to keep the realism. I do have the moments where I'm very optimistic in that, but I have to read the vibe, my vibe. My vibe is telling me there's something off with the team right now. And my vibe has been telling me for a while that this team, our team, is having trouble adjusting from going to the hunter to being the hunted. They simply thrive on being an underdog, and that's how they go out and upsetting everyone. When they're a favorite who is expected to go out and kick somebody's ass, they struggle. And the way I look at it, the pressure's all on us this game. You know, Washington can look to that injury list and they're not having their quarterback and say, well, look, of course we're going to struggle here. Us, we've got no excuse to lose this game whatsoever. They're banged up. They're not as good a team as we are. We're better. Even if the teams were fully strength, we're the better team. We're expected to win. And we've got two very rough fixtures coming up after this, and we're on the back of a loss. And this is the first time where you can just sense a bit of edginess in the air. This is not like all the other times where we lose a game, we bounce back. There's legitimate ramifications now. And just something saying to me that they're going to struggle with it. And that I think this is going to be a horrible game. I think it's going to be one of those where it's error prone, it's mistake ridden. There's going to be turnovers on both sides because Mario was going to throw a pick at some point. We all know that. I do think we will win, but I think the nature of the win will leave us with more questions than answers. I reckon it's going to be something like 21-18 to the Lions, and it's going to be just ugly because I think we're still figuring ourselves out. And I think the Commanders will fight hard. I do. I think they're better than that record suggests. I think they're more feisty than that record suggests. And, again, their backs are up against the wall. They got to play well. And I think they will. But I trust our defense to do enough to get. It'll be the defense that wins it for us. Absolutely. I don't think it's the offense that wins it. So 21-18 to us, but I'm not expecting a pretty game. And I'm fully on upset alert this week. I don't think this is a case of we just waltz in there and beat them. I just think that's wishful thinking.
I think this team can hurt us, but I do think that where we are strong is where we need to be strong to beat this team. And if I think about how much we're hurting now, and I think of how much we were hurt by them at the end of last season, with the analysts coming out saying, I can see us putting a beating down on them, I can see that. Is it likely? It is what I think is going to happen. I do think that this is the sort of game where if you can just get Gibbs rolling, then you're going to have an absolute whale of a time in this game. That's the absolute key to this. If you can run to open up the pass, you're going to have your way with this Washington team. And I believe that we'll get it done this week. So I'm going to go for something not unlike the record that they had last week. So I'm going to say 31-17. We'll see. Maybe I'm being vain for believing in us a little bit, but it's just one of those where, come on, Gibbs, please do this for us, because he's been quiet the last couple of weeks.
But the balance between Gibbs and Monty's gone. That's the trouble.
Oh, it's really worrying.
The balance has got Gibbs is suffering because Monty's not playing. And Monty's not playing well because he's just been given the terrible, he's just been given the stuff up the middle to run all the time. There's no mistaking the correlation between Gibbs tailing off a bit and Monty not being used. We've disrespected the yin and yang between the two of them because Morton wants his big shiny toy to go out and do it for him and doesn't appreciate what Monty does for this team. And speaking of shiny toys that are not appreciated right, I am really going to start having a go at him if JMO is not used. And I will put one stat out for the air right now. Washington are second in the league for passing yards given up in this league. They've conceded second most passing yards through the air out of everybody because the secondary is not good. This defense has always been centered around its defensive line, its linebackers, its ability to make splash plays up on the front. You have Jameson Williams. Use him. Do not leave him till the fourth quarter. Don't just throw some useless moon ball up to him early and then decide, oh yeah, it's going to be no good there. Use him. Washington are going to look at exactly what Minnesota did to us. We didn't use JMO deep. We didn't try and use Isaac Teslar's contested catch ability down the field. We don't take shots downfield, period. If you don't take shots down the field, then all those young DBs. Mike Sanra still is in there. The old Michigan DB. He's fucking great against the run. He'll force a fumble or two. You let him come up, you know, stifle your rushing attack. You're going to play right into their hands. If I go through that first half and he doesn't throw a single deep shot, I am going to start calling for his job because he acts like Jameson Williams as a prize that he has to earn the right to win and use. He's not. First play of the game, you launch one to fuck ton right down the field at JMO and go for it. You make Washington think twice about coming up to stop the run against you because you're not afraid to use your weapons downfield. Washington can hurt us if we don't. They're there to be had in the passing game. It's very easy. I can see it. Surely an offensive coordinator in the NFL can see it. Again, isn't that what Seattle did? Use Jackson Smith and Jigba. Hit them down the field again and again and again and again and again. It works. Bob.
I am taken back to a game. Oh, it must have been 4 years ago. David Blau started, and the very first play of the game was a 70-yard chuck to Kenny Golladay for a touchdown.
Feels like Chicago.
Sounds right. Sometimes going for all play one is something you need to show you're willing to do on tape, because otherwise teams will just crowd the box. Like, don't be too predictable. So I'm here for trying to punish them on the very first play. Like, just, we're not unpredictable. Generally speaking, as a team, teams have cottoned on to us. We're not adjusting. We're just saying we're better than other teams. And it's like, well, that might be true, but you can have a better scheme and a better team, and that's even better. So
even Ben wasn't scared to do that. Like, Ben liked to run first, we know that, but he was not averse to going out there and chucking a flea flicker on the first play or something like that to make a team go, God damn, we're going to have to leave someone back a little bit. I hate the term, you've got to open up the pass with the run. You've got to earn the right. We have been pigeonholed into being a team which everyone thinks we have to run the ball well before we're able to pass it because we've got Jared Goff in there. Newsflash, Goff is one of the better QBs in the league. He's hella accurate. Yes, the downfield stuff can be a little bit iffy, but for the most part, it works. I'm sick and tired of having to wait for the downfield passes like they are a prize in a fair. We can just do it. It's one of the most frustrating things about him ever. You don't need to use elite speed. You've got an elite speed guy and you've got a really good contested catch guy deep downfield. Use them.
Use them. Yeah, absolutely.
Don't come out, because I know exactly what he's going to do. Run up the middle, screen pass, or pass that's 4 yards before the sticks and get swallowed up. That's his fucking bread and butter. That's what he likes to do. We called the plays during the Patricia era. That's how bad it got. You can call Bob Morton's plays right now, and I'm calling him Bob because someone called him Jim Bob Cooter. He is now Bob Morton.
All right, let's talk about the rest of the week slate. Thursday Night Football's already happened. It was a 10-7 win for the Denver Broncos. Their 7th straight victory after starting 1-2. They are very much leading that division and look to be taking the crown potentially off the Kansas City Chiefs. But, Ant, this is one of the worst games of football we may ever see.
See, hang on, was that the Broncos game that's been and gone?
Yeah.
See, thankfully, I was watching an equally worse blowout between USA and UTSA and USF, and I'm quite glad I actually watched USF. The Bulls are a better brand of football than either of those two teams.
Oh, yeah. USF were great.
USF are much better. The Raiders could learn something from USF when it comes to offensive football. Byron Brown is a damn sight better than Geno Smith. In fact, you know what I would go to say? That old dinosaur that runs the Raiders. Did you see, Geno Smith couldn't walk. And he's just like, oh yeah, off you go. Out you go. You're good. You can go and play. You got Kenny Pickett there. He's wheeling out a complete crock. They can't do anything. Denver are useless. Now, honestly, it's one of the worst games I've ever seen in my life, and I've watched Iowa play plenty. The Iowa Hawkeyes could have done a better offensive performance than those two can, which shows you just about where you're at. No, it was terrible. the bits I saw of it. I watched like the fourth quarter because the blowout in the UTSA game like kind of forced me to, but it was just absolute rotten. TNF, the games are useless. What is it? Jets Patriots next week? Like you've got the Jets on there. No one wants to watch the Jets play football. You've got the Raiders on there. No one wants to watch the Raiders play football. It's like the British games. They're just useless. I don't know why TNF exists. They should just scrap it.
Week 11 Thursday Night Football is Jets at Patriots. Yikes.
Yeah, who wants to watch that?
But the
Nobody.
week afterwards is Bills at Texans. I can get behind that.
Yeah, but the Bills will probably whack them because the Texans are just Mr. Inconsistent this year.
Maybe, but Houston have maybe the best defense in the NFL.
Possibly. It would be better, but for the most part, Thursday night football games are just absolute trash.
All right, let's get on to the Sunday slate, and we start off with the Berlin game, the Atlanta Falcons at the Indianapolis Colts. Let me bring up the betting lines because I have not thought to do that before because I am an idiot.
6.5 to Indy.
Yikes. I am still taking Indy here. The Falcons, well, they're a bipolar team and they're good or they're bad. But I have to think that the Colts, being who they are going to be able to run away with this one, literally and figuratively.
I mean, what are the Colts? The Colts have basically said they're a Super Bowl team with that trade for Sauce Gardner.
Yes.
They are going all in. I mean, that's a bit of a ballsy move, isn't it?
It is.
That 48 and a half point line is going to be under, by the way, because international games never get that high scoring. I reckon the chances of that going over 48 points are. I reckon there's a better chance of me growing a mullet by Christmas than the 48 and a half being met by that. That's how confident I am. It's just odd. Like, the Falcons are so. As again, it's the split personality Falcons. Now, you've seen the bad personality the last few weeks. It would be so Atlanta to absolutely smack Indy now when they least expected it. And I think they will. I think this will be like 28-6 to Atlanta. Because I think Indy are going to come in with all this impetus and stuff. They're going to go there, and all of a sudden they're just going to run into the good version of the Atlanta Falcons, and that's going to be that. So I got the Falcons winning.
Fair. Next up is Giants at Bears. 2-win Giants needing to win to have any chance left of making the postseason. Bears 5-3 are level with the Lions, and if they win and the Packers lose, and the Lions also don't match the Bears' result, they will be number one in the NFC North for the first time in a very long time. Bears are favoured in this game. Of course, they are 11-5. I don't have the betting spread, so I need to bring that up.
It's 4.5.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to take the Giants just because, despite everything, the Bears don't convince me as a football team. They are not joined up together. They're not playing good complementary football. They seem to find ways to put themselves in difficult situations week to week. And this Giants team still has a defense which is going to force teams to beat them. So on the spread, I'm going Giants straight up. I'll go Bears reluctantly. What do you think?
I think the Bears are going to win by 5 scores.
Wow.
I think, and I'm doing genuinely serious here, like the Giants are trash, and I hate the Bears with every fiber of my being, but they're riding a scrub schedule to look good. Like, this is what a fourth place schedule gets you. Like, the Saints, the Giants, you get the worst of the worst in the NFL. I just don't think New York are anything at all. And I really want the Bears to lose. I want the Giants to win this more than anything, but even I have to say, like, there's a vibe around the Bears now. They're winning games, and we saw what happened to Detroit when Detroit started winning games. They went from being a bad team to being a decent team with the same players. That's what winning does for you. Sweat's starting to get up there again. The offensive line's protecting Caleb fairly well. Caleb's playing good football. Yeah, I just don't see the Giants having anywhere near enough. I think the Bears are going to absolutely twonk them.
Next up is the Bills at the Dolphins. 6-win Bills against 2-win Dolphins. This one has a 9.5-point spread in favour of the Bills, which in my opinion is nowhere near close enough for a Dolphins team in a freefall. And they're fighting, but this Bills team is far too good for that. What do you think?
I don't think I'm allowed to talk about the Dolphins anymore. I'm pretty sure Grandize has banned me from talking about the Dolphins.
It's okay.
I don't know if
He's not in the chat. It's fine.
is he not in the chat? Can I slag him off? Yeah, that line should be about 3 times higher. The Bills are going to absolutely waste them. Like, absolutely waste them. I would be shocked if the Dolphins were within 25 points of the Bills when this was all said, unless the Bills just kind of took their foot off the gas. I think this is going to be the biggest mismatch of the week.
Next up is the Ravens at the Vikings, a desperate Ravens team trying to get back on top of that division, which seems to have no one who wants to take it particularly, up against the Vikings team that has just made itself relevant in the NFC by beating the Lions. It's a 4-point spread in favour of the Ravens away from home. And what do you think?
See, this is very easy for me. I've been rooting against the Ravens because I wanted them to sell at the deadline. The deadline's gone now, so I don't have that incentive anymore. I despise the Vikings. I hate everything about them. I want the Ravens to absolutely trash them like the trash organization they are. I think the Ravens will absolutely trash them. So give me Ravens by like 3 scores.
I do think the Ravens will win. Frankly, in the battle of hungry teams, they're better as a team. The Vikings team is not a good overall team. You think about who the Vikings are and how aggressive they are. Lamar's going to eat that up. It's just not a good matchup for the Vikings.
In the regular season, when they're in trouble, the Ravens are awesome.
Yeah.
Like, every time they're backed into a corner, you just know they're going to win. Like, they're not going to miss out on the playoffs.
Next up is the Browns at the Jets in the Sickos game of the week. 2-win Browns against the 1-win Jets. This game is a 2-point spread in favour of the Browns away. I am taking the Jets. In spite of everything they've done with trades at the deadline, the Browns are such a frustrating team. And I just think that in the law of averages, the Jets have to get some more. I don't think they're going to be a 1-win team come the end of the season. I kind of see the trades away as a vote of confidence in the leadership that's there. And I think that Glenn will be able to effectively sell it to everyone else in that room as a way to audition to be on this team next year or to find their next job. And the Browns are a perfect team to do this against.
No. I think Myles Garrett's probably going to get about 20 sacks in this game.
It could happen.
I mean, that Browns defense has kept it in the game and has nearly won games against far superior offenses to what the New York Jets can offer you. The New York Jets have absolutely nothing. I think the Browns defense is going to win it alone for them. And, to be honest, the Jets need to lose. They need to keep losing. They've got all these first round picks, but you want to have an impact player. You want to have a blue chip player at the top of the draft. What is a win against the Browns going to do for you? It's going to lose your draft position, and that's what it's going to do. So ideal at this point, you go into tank mode now. You get some good players, use those draft picks to good effect. But yeah, that Cleveland defense is just way too good for anything the Jets can throw at it. So I think Cleveland wins.
Next up is the Patriots at the Buccaneers in a game of 7 and 6-win teams. So, it's a very rare game with 2 plus 500 teams playing against each other at this point. Bucks are favoured at home by 2.5. This is one of my favourite games of the week. It's still in the 6 o'clock slate, which is a shame, because this deserves to be in higher billing. May has been one of the revelations of the year. Baker Mayfield is who he is, and that is a very, very good quarterback. So I'm excited for this game, but I have no idea what's going to happen.
You know what? I genuinely don't know. And it's one of those games where I don't actually care who wins so long as it's a good game. I could get behind whoever wins. I have a soft spot for the Bucks. I have a soft spot for the Pats under Vrabel at the minute, which I never thought I'd ever say. I'm with you. I think it's potential to be game of the week. This does. I mean, you think how those two teams play, they hit hard. Trench warfare. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be gritty. It could be one of those that could be 9-6 when it's all said and done, but it's one of the most entertaining 9-6 games you'll ever see in your life. Because that's how they play. I mean, is it in Tampa?
It's in Tampa.
See, I don't really feel like home advantage matters much for the Bucks, but that could just be me pulling something out my ass. I've no idea, but I feel the Pats are suited to playing away on the road. I will say Pats. Is it an upset? I don't know who's favoured. Sorry, I missed who
Bucks
was
favoured by 2.5.
Oh, I think the Pats can cover that and beat them. Just.
I think the thing about this is May, for me, is still an inexperienced guy. And if I think about who's calling the defense for Tampa and who is running the offense in terms of the quarterback, I just like their experience a little bit more. I'm going Bucks. I don't feel great about it, though. Next up is Saints at Panthers. 1-win Saints against the 5-4 Panthers. The Panthers, who look like they're very much going to make some noise in the NFC playoff race. This spread... I can never find the bloody spreads. This spread is 5.5 points in favour of the Carolina Panthers, and I'm firmly taking the Panthers. This Saints team traded away Rashid Shaheed. They're tanking now very clearly. They have no business winning this game.
No, Panthers are a much better team than what they are right now, and the Saints will continue to be what I've called them for a very long time, the worst team in the league. They're even worse than Tennessee. Do they play each other this season? The Titans and the Saints? I'd be very interested to see if they play one another because these are the two fighting it out for the number one pick. Now, I don't think anyone can outbad them unless the Jets are in there, but it does feel like it's a Tennessee Saints thing this year.
The Saints play the Tennessee Titans in Week 17.
Oh, wow. So what is that? second week to the end of that is going to be
penultimate week.
You talk about sickos games. How physically sick that is something that you do someone as a dare. Like, I dare you to watch this game, and they go, no, please, I'd rather, have a tooth pulled out or be, impaled on something rather than watch that.
Mm.
Oh, well, that's going to be intriguing. That's going to be sick. But yeah, Panthers will win that one.
Yeah. Last one in the early slate is Jags at Texans. 5-win Jags, 3-win Texans. Texans fighting for life in the AFC South. The spread is 1.5 points in favour of the Jacksonville Jaguars away from home. Give me the Texans firmly.
Ooh. I don't know. It seems easy to root against the Jags for this one, but the Jags have also proven that they can be a decent team this year when they want to be. But at the Texans, they're favourites. That's cray-cray. That feels like a trap, that does.
It does.
It feels like an ultimate trap. No, I'm with you. I am a little too cynical about them. I will take the Texans for that, but some part of me tells me I might regret it.
Always the way, isn't it? All right. Late slate starts off with Cardinals at Seahawks. 3-win Cardinals at the 6-win Seahawks at Lumen Field. It is a 7-point spread in favour of the Seahawks. The Cardinals have openly benched Kyler Murray, even though he was put on IR. If he was fit, he wouldn't be starting anyway, apparently. Jacoby Brissett apparently gives him the best chance to win, which is a damning indictment of Kyler. With all the turmoil happening there, with how well the Seattle Seahawks are playing, I think they comfortably cover the spread here.
Do you know when do you know when the Cardinals last beat the Seahawks?
No.
2021.
It's been a while.
Talk about bogey teams. The Seahawks are the ultimate bogey team who just cannot be beaten. There's 4 years since, although it was at Lumen Field or whatever it was called back then, when they did do it. But yeah, I think that record's going to go on just a little bit longer.
Okay. Next up is going to be probably the game of the week, with the 6-win Rams going to the 6-win 49ers. Rams are 5.5-point favourites. Another start for Mac Jones. Although apparently Brock Purdy might be active, although I don't know whether he's now been ruled out. But there was definitely a word that Brock Purdy could be active but wouldn't be starting regardless, which I think is an interesting wrinkle to this game. Regardless, it's at Levi's Stadium and the Rams are favoured. What do you think?
This could low-key be a really good game as well. I mean, Mac Jones has been incredibly efficient. The Rams, I don't know. You know what? I think the 49ers might do it. I know Puka's playing, but I think the 49ers might have a good chance. So I think they're going to upset them.
Wow. Okay, I'm taking the Rams. Right now, the Rams are the team I think that will be the NFC representative in the Super Bowl. The way things are going, I think they are the best team in this conference. That's what I'm saying for them, so obviously I'm going for them. Lions Commanders is the next game in the late slate. We go on to Sunday Night Football, which is the Steelers at the Chargers. Steelers 5-win team at 5-3 against the Chargers, which are 6-3. This spread is 2.5 points in favour of the Chargers. And I got to tell you, I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers with no good fit tackles on the Charger side of the ball, and that Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line that looks like it started to come and play. I gotta go with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Bloody hell, hang on. Did I just hear you correctly pick the Steelers? Just making sure I didn't get that right.
Yeah, I'm saying that this is a massive mismatch because the Chargers O-line is beaten up and the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line has finally woken up this year.
Yes, but the Pittsburgh Steelers are the Pittsburgh Steelers. What's their record? Hang on, what's the Steelers' record at the moment?
5-3.
When they're doing two... Right, 5-3. That means they're doing too good, so they're due to lose one. So I'll take Chargers. The Steelers always lose one when they're not expected to. And then when the record gets bad and you've just given up on them, then they'll win again. That's how being a Steelers fan works.
They are underdogs in this game, though.
I've got Justin Herbert in fantasy. Let me have this, pretty please.
All right, fine. Monday night.
No, yeah.
Monday Night Football is a banger in the NFC. Eagles at Packers. 6-win Eagles against the 5-2-1 Packers. The Green Bay Packers are favoured by a point. And I cannot stress this enough. I'm going to be hate watching this game. But the Green Bay Packers have not looked good this season. I don't care what people think about this team. They don't look like a good football team. The Eagles do. Like, the Eagles have sorted out their shit. They have looked good the last couple of games. How on earth are the Packers favoured? After a loss against the Carolina Panthers at home. Like, come on. I'm taking the Eagles, and I think they're going to absolutely barnstorm the Packers. I think this could be a 2-score win.
I hope the Eagles absolutely marmalize them. That's what I want. I want the Eagles to absolutely destroy those insufferable Jebens from up in Wisconsin. I cannot stand them. We play the Eagles next week, so we can go kick the Eagles' arse next week, and you know that we need that. But I'm done with the Packers, man. I'm done with those insufferable. You know, they need to be put in their place, and hopefully the Eagles will do that. We'll deal with the Eagles later down the line. Let's get the Packers done first.
All right, that's all of the games picked. Good luck, everybody, tomorrow for the Lions game. Hopefully, we do get right in that one. College Football Podcast is, well, it just aired. If you didn't listen to it, go back and listen to it on YouTube and Twitch. We will be back with the College Football Podcast sometime at middle of next week. Looking back at oh my God, which week was it?
11.
It was week 11. Wow, bloody hell. Week 11 and looking ahead to week 12. We really are getting to the business end of the college football season. That is so worrying, actually. Oh my God. We've moved on so quickly. It's almost over.
Iowa are beating Oregon.
Are you serious? Oh my God. Really?
Iowa are beating Oregon.
They were 5 points back.
Nope, they're 16-15 up and there's 2 minutes to go.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, please. Pretty please.
That would be so funny. We're going to be back on the main show with a live watch-along, as we always do tomorrow. So if you want to have some fun, come check us out. We'll be online at about 4:15 Eastern Time. That's 9:15 in the UK. And then we'll be back for a game review at some point early next week. You can find us on socials. You know where to find us. And cheers for doing this to me, man. Enjoy the rest of the college football evening. See you tomorrow for the Lions game. To everyone else, as I said, have a great rest of your weekend. We'll see you tomorrow. Let's go Lions, one pride.
One pride.
Recording stopped.